We're talking with Willie Robinson. He's a candidate for Richmond County School Board for the C4 District 2. Is that right?
That's exactly right. District 2.
How many schools are in District 2?
There was Jenkins White, Wilkinson Garden, T.W. Josie, Murphy, and C.T. Walker. We no longer have Jenkins White, so that will mean that there are 4. There are 4.
It's about right. It's one of the smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
So Walker is in District 2?
It is.
I guess I didn't realize that.
Yes,
I was thinking it was probably in District 1.
it's District 2.
Okay.
So what got you interested into running for public office? A lot of people like to run away from public office. Why are you seeking this?
Well, actually, in my mind, I always figured one day that I would seek public office. Being an educator, it's kind of difficult with our work schedule to even consider that until after retirement. But I've been interested in politics pretty much ever since college. I was a political science major in college, although I enjoyed mostly the history the history part of political science, but I know about politics. But there was an opportunity for me to take a job outside of the district without leaving my home in Richmond County, and I saw it as an opportunity to continue to lead in my community by offering my perspective on how education in Richmond County can become better.
And you have experience in Richmond County School District too.
Oh, absolutely. I was between a special education teacher, a history and social science teacher, and a school administrator in Richmond County for a total of about 12 years.
Yeah. Which schools?
Yes. Well, early on, I started at Westside High School. Then I went to Glen Hills High School. From there, I helped open the Technical Career Magnet School that's on the campus of Augusta Tech. From there, I became assistant principal at Seago Middle School. From there, I went to Murphy Middle School for the last 2 years of my career in Richmond County as a teacher and administrator.
Yeah, so spending that much time working in the school system, you probably have developed some ideas on how to see what's working and see what could work better.
Absolutely. What I like to share with people is I have worked at many schools with many different designations, but throughout my entire career, it's been based on school improvement. Even from the moment we opened the Magnet School on the campus of Augusta University, we were already in school improvement mode. So I have been working and learning and being a part of that process my entire career. And I've seen what works and I've seen what does not work.
And you kind of see that in microcosm in District 2. You see what works, what really works, C.T. Walker.
Yes.
And other schools that may be considered lower performing in the district. So what works at, say, C.T. Walker that could work at other schools?
To be honest, it's not much in the way of leadership that I could give a nod to. You're just going to have some children who are just higher performing, and then you put them all in one place, and that's what you get. C.T. Walker has a long history of high performance, but some of our other schools are not. Our children are not as fortunate to be able to go to C.T. Walker. But I think that what has contributed to the success of C.T. Walker is there's a certain value in education that those children come to school with, that I'm sure that is impressed upon them from their parents or their family or whatever early exposure that they've had to in their lives, whether it's been vacations, early preschool programs, nannies, you have it. At some point they became more than prepared for school.
So how could you? So would it be possible to kind of spread the good word, so to speak? The same values. Or would that involve? I guess that would involve working with parents too, because parents are really an integral part of helping kids learn.
you know, for the entire time that I've been in education and throughout my graduate studies, you know, the research says the more parents are involved, the better a child does in school. But it's almost like we can't give up on that, on wanting that for our students, but we also have to look at our community and look at our situation and understand too on one side that a lot of our parents are doing the best that they know how. So now what? We have to become their surrogate parents for that 180 days that we have them and give them the best education that we could possibly give them. We can't keep blaming the parents for the children, their downfalls. If we're the professionals, we're the educators, what are we going to do to fix the problem if the parents never come around or never demonstrate the value of education that we want them to demonstrate? At one of the forums that we attended, you know, I said what I believe will turn that around. Although we talk about the opportunities that our students have here in Richmond County Schools, at some point we're going to have to do something to give parents an opportunity to improve their quality of life, because when they improve their quality of life, that will transfer on to their children. Our parents are taking what jobs that are available in this area for their skill level or education level, and we know that they're working a lot of swing shifts, but that's paying the bills, but it's also taking them out of the household for extended periods of time, and you know, they're being left with grandparents or older siblings, and you know, they're just not getting everything that they need at the house while mom or dad is trying to make ends meet.
I think I've heard of some schools, nonprofits, churches, they can step in. They kind of buy into the it takes a village concept.
It does.
And to a school, and would you go along with maybe wide-scale partnerships like that between the school system and organizations like that?
Absolutely. Those partnerships have to become real, and we have to tell our business partners and our community partners exactly what it is that we need from them. If we need job training for our parents, it's not enough for us to offer that. There has to be some sort of incentive behind that, other than, you know, because they can get a job, a temporary job, to take care of whatever need they have for the moment, but to look at something long term, that's what I think is going to incentivize our parents to look at, you know, a whole lifestyle change. And you know, my family, I'm the first person in my family to go to college, so you know, we grew up middle of the road. At least I thought we was. I think really we were probably poor, but our parents made it look the best that it could look. But being the first person in my family to go to college, I can see what it's done for my family, just from my perspective. I have a son who I had while I was in high school. He's in college now in Tennessee. So you know, it's a generational thing that we're trying to correct. My family, I come from a family of hard workers. They've always worked hard and taken care of family, but and they valued education, but they also believed in going to work and, you know, just working and doing the best you could with what you had. But they encouraged this generation to continue their education. And I'm the oldest child in my family, with a younger brother that's 6 years older than I am. He went into more of like a trade field, which he liked to cook, you know, became a chef, that kind of stuff.
Let's talk about that for a minute. There's you know, it's been said, not every high school student is destined for college and not cut out for college. And could the school system do more to prepare otherwise talented kids for something other than college, for more of a successful career track?
Absolutely. At one point, I think in our country, that was probably the whole intention of graduating students from high school. But we had to, as a country and as a world, probably had to come to realize that all children are not cut out for college. But at least if we graduate them and they decide they want to go to college, we want to make sure that they can handle college, that they are prepared for college. Trade skills, at one point in time, especially when I was in high school in the 90s, we had those programs at every high school in Richmond County. Somehow they seem to have dried up. So now the school system can share with the community that we have this one skills trade center at T.W. Josie that the kids have to come from all over the district to go to. Like, why can't we have that at every school like we used to? Remember wood shop? You remember
Right.
all the different programs? But people became carpenters from wood shop classes, being inspired by their wood shop teacher. But as of recent years, and you see sometimes, you see on some of the school buildings, comprehensive high school, that's what that meant,
Right.
that you could get everything at that school.
I remember that too, when we had, you had your vocational and your college prep
So,
seal, I guess, and you could go.
and especially with us being where we're located, our kids are influenced a lot by the military. We want to ensure that the students of Richmond County, when they graduate, that they have developed the necessary endurance and the understanding of authority, because when they get to the Army or whatever branch of the military that they get in, that authority is probably going to go, that thing that they experienced in high school is probably going to be turned up about 3 or 4 or 5 notches. And we don't want them to quit and return back home because they don't like the way that their superiors are talking to them. That's a part of the process. So in order for us to ensure that our graduates are prepared for work, college, military, or what have you, we have to develop some competencies as a school system that we can measure to determine whether our graduates are prepared to go into the real world. At one point in time, there used to be graduation tests. They did away with those. And they really, truly did not measure whether a student was prepared to go out into the world. But we can develop competencies. For years, I've gone to other districts and been a part of a process for high school graduates where they do capstone projects. And that capstone project it measures a lot of different skills, but to get to the point where the judging happens, that takes, the child goes out into the real world. It's action research. So they get a real world view, because it's like on the job training, those type of things. So, you get to measure whether the child has those competencies in order to go out into the real world, because whoever they're working with has to evaluate them. These things are important. We don't have the graduation test anymore. How are we measuring whether our children are ready for the real world other than the grades that we're giving them, which, if you know anything about how innovative schooling has gotten these days, our children can pass a course in a week on a computer. It's not back in the day where I failed anatomy with a 69 and had to take it over from another teacher, in the summer school. Like 69 would not give me that 1 point because I didn't earn it. But, we develop competencies and say we want our kids to have critical thinking skills. And these are called 21st century skills. 20 critical thinking skills, skills in collaboration, skills in whatever. We define them for this district, and we find a way to measure it before we release these children to the world.
It's good. Other candidates have been talking about that. I think another term they use to describe it is soft skills.
Yeah, more than that. Because the soft skills are when you meet someone, shaking hands, having appropriate conversations, saying excuse me, those type of things. Those are the basics. But we want them to be able to sit down with a group of other graduates from other districts and be able to collaborate with them if they run into them in the workforce, and not shrink from conversations with their peers that they run into in the world. They have to be able to compete.
Would your work schedule give you enough time to be a Richmond County School Board member? Do you think you could make most of the events? And do you think attendance is important?
I think attendance is important, and I have considered all things school board and work related. We are given so many days per year as educators to use for our personal business. I plan to use all those efficiently, and any other time that I need, I'll work it out as it comes. But I plan to be at every board meeting. I plan to visit schools as often as possible, and I plan to just be as involved as I can. See, the perception has been in this community that a person should either be retired or an entrepreneur to take on this role. But that perception has to change. If you really want to see it make a difference in your community, and you feel like you have what it takes, you'll do what it takes.
A minute ago, you mentioned the Career Skills Center at Josie High School and how it would help to spread that to other schools. That was a project that was spearheaded by the incumbent you're running against, Charlie Hanna. And what kind of a job do you think Charlie Hanna is doing? Because to win the election, part of what you have to do is convince voters that they have to vote out
Well,
the incumbent.
I'll say
I don't
this.
want to put you in a spot, but
Your question was, what kind of job do I think Mr. Charlie Hanna is doing?
yes.
I've met Mr. Charlie Hanna, and we've had a friendly competition, and I plan to keep it that way. I think that Mr. Charlie Hanna has done what he can do as a school board member based on his experiences and his realm of thinking when it comes to education. I stepped forward because I believe I have a better perspective on improving this school district than Mr. Hanna currently. It's no comparison when you look at my background in education and the experience that I've had in the school system. We're a district that's in need of improvement. That's been my whole career. There's nobody, well, Mr. Hanna can't say that for his background. Skills trade, I think that was an idea that maybe he brought forth, but in my mind, that's a trend that's happening across the country. If we were not here, that's the minimum expectation that I would expect from the school system to start developing skilled trade opportunities for our students. It was a need. It wasn't anything that was, it wasn't a phenomenal move on the district's part. It was just like, okay, we need to do this. It wasn't anything so innovative, I'll say. It was just Tuesday. Just like cyber. People are saying, we opened the school system opened a cyber center of excellence. What else were we going to do? We're the largest school system in this area. It's a major investment going on right here, which means we're having a whole lot of people moving to this area. We want to be attractive to the people that are moving here. We want to identify with them some kind of way. So.
Well, if most of those things are somewhat expected, I mean, what's unexpected? What would be innovative that you might bring to the system?
Well, like I said, if you consider the composition of our school board and their backgrounds and their realm of experience, I'm bringing my perspective, and my perspective as a classroom teacher, a recent classroom teacher, and a recent school administrator. I feel like I have my finger on the pulse of education. I have worked in a variety of different schools. I think that based on my experience, I've worked in every school in Richmond County, essentially. And I've seen the issues and ways that I'm sure that they can be improved. And it's about conversations. Even as an administrator, an assistant administrator, you don't have a whole lot of opportunities to have your voice heard because you're just a subordinate. You're subordinate. You're just assisting your boss, and you get to share out some of your ideas every now and then, but you don't always get your ideas. Your ideas are not always picked. But something unusual, I guess, or out the ordinary would be for us to consider the fact that we know that our students have some of the lowest reading levels in the state. Why not reduce our class sizes and address the reading levels from a basics point of view instead of from a computer point of view. You've heard a lot of different programs that we may use in Richmond County school systems. iReady, that's supposed to help our kids get on grade level in math. Instead, our kids are burned out from it. They have to take a diagnostic in the first part of the year, and then throughout the year, based on that diagnostic, throughout the year, based on that diagnostic, they have to continually work on that program to build those skills that diagnostic captured that they didn't have. Well, they're tired of it, because we make them do it at home, we make them do it at school, and we see little growth, especially in the upper grades, because research says by third grade, if they're not reading on grade level, the gap just continues to grow wider and wider throughout their schooling. So I think that to do something out of the ordinary is to reduce class sizes. Our teachers will appreciate it, and we will certainly see an increase in student achievement, because teachers will have an opportunity to truly focus on students with those deficits in whatever area. And no matter, we need to find where we can reduce class sizes for teachers. It's always been about money and staffing, but we need to find a way to reduce class sizes in those schools that really need to focus on those deficit areas in students. Something else that wouldn't be out the ordinary is we set up schools in a way that definitely prepared our students for the real world. And what I mean, we have structures in school, but we bend so much, and I think it doesn't do our children or our parents any favor long term when we do that. So I don't want to say we need to be strict about what we do, but we need to set up our systems, and we need to stick to them for the sake of our kids, because what we do in schooling is so important. The way we set up schooling, the rules that come with it, such as attendance, tardy policies, the way we give grades, all of that is reflective of the real world. You'll be evaluated on your jobs based on your work. You're expected to come to work on time and often. Just everything about the way schooling is set up. You earn your grades. Those type of things. You get a false impression for the real world if we don't hold our students accountable. And that's still love. I believe I say to myself, treat our kids like you would treat your own children. What would you want for your own children? And that should guide you.
I like the idea of smaller class sizes, and with that, and with smaller class sizes, that means you'd have to hire more teachers. Well, how could you make the Richmond County school system more attractive for teachers, since it's kind of a challenge in the first place to attract teachers to the system?
Well, that's number one. Teachers appreciate smaller class sizes, so we're guaranteeing smaller class sizes in these high need schools. That'll be a big draw. Number one, we have to offer incentives for teachers who do show high progress throughout the year. There's opportunities for that. We are a Title I school district, as you know. It has to do with it has to do with the poverty level of our students, unfortunately. So we get lots of money in addition to state funding to provide services to our students. So those funds can be used to incentivize teachers for high progress. And we have to ensure that we are putting highly effective leaders in our schools. I've been talking about this process, Joe, where schools get to decide who their principals are. Not always a top-down approach. When you do an interview with a person that's seeking the principalship, and they get to sit around a table with teachers in the building, parents of children in schools, and other personnel, and they tell them what they're going to do, that's a way to keep people accountable. But a lot of times, administrators show up to schools in Richmond County, and the people there don't know what they said they were going to do, because they're only accountable to whoever sent them there. So you can imagine the type of leadership that will start to develop in Richmond County when these leaders are being accountable to the people that they're working for. They're not accountable for the people that they're working for. That's a whole cultural change. Even, you know, you even see situations like that where a lone teacher that's trying to get a third grade teaching job has to go through that same process, because everybody wants to know what are you saying you're going to do, because whatever you say you're going to do in this interview, we're all going to hold you accountable. It's not just interviews with the principal and you introduce a new teacher to the staff and they don't know what this teacher says she's going to do or he's going to do. You know, it creates a different type of accountability.
How do you think Dr. Pringle is doing as a superintendent?
I think that Dr. Pringle is a very smart, very savvy superintendent, and I think that she has a lot of experience that lends itself well to Richmond County schools, and I think that her best days are ahead of her.
In talking with other candidates, in fact, every other candidate, they brought up the issue of communication between parents and school board members and the schools, and that there's sometimes a disconnect. You know, some parents feel that they're not being heard, or especially their concerns. What needs to be done, or does anything need to be done to improve the lines of communication between parents and school board representatives in school?
Well, I can't honestly say that I believe that there is a disconnect between school board members and parents, because I find that parents communicate with board members often, and at the Board of Education. Parents are never turned away, in my experience. Communication between members and the community is maybe that can be improved. A lot of times we see our board members at board meetings and then at ceremonies for the school, but we never see our board members perhaps hosting community events where they give the community opportunity to share their concerns, right, to take back to the superintendent, or for them to address at whatever event that they're having. So these are the people that have elected you. We as, if I'm an elected board member, I think opportunities for board members to host community events to find out how people are, how they feel about the schools, and if there's anything that they feel they need to share with board members, and they can take that back to the superintendent for consideration. But as far as communication with the schools, I think Richmond County Schools does a good job of communicating. They have all types of systems. You can consider even the school marquee. Every school has a digital marquee. That's a form of communication. They have the Global Connect system, which allows you to push messages to all updated telephone numbers in your system, and that system also allows you to send emails. And then, of course, all phones are available and on all throughout the day, and people can come in and out of schools and the central office at any time during regular business hours. So, there's opportunities for parents to communicate. I just think that from a board member's perspective, we could probably do more to engage the community outside of board meetings or ribbon cutting ceremonies.
Something you mentioned at one of the forums, I think, was that maybe the teachers in Richmond County are fairly well compensated. I was just wondering how you came to that.
Well, I consider, based on our cost of living here in Richmond County, in comparison to some other districts across the state. Now, we can't. It's not in comparison to Columbia County, because Columbia County, and let me back up. At one point in time, before districts were allowed to sign what are called strategic waivers, have y'all heard about them? They became available about 4 years ago. A lot of them are about to expire. Strategic waivers allow school districts to get off of the teacher state salary schedule. It allowed districts to use their budget, their funding, and whatever way that they deem fit for the school districts. It allowed them to pretty much not keep up with most of the requirements that the state allows. Students have to attend school so many days a year. That strategic waiver from Richmond County, they asked that we receive flexibility in that area. It's available on the accountability website of the school district, and it'll outline everything. But I say that to say this: at one point in time, all teachers in the state of Georgia were on the same salary schedule based on years of experience in education. With the strategic waivers, it has allowed districts to come off of that, and they have the option to raise their minimums pay, or they have the option to lower it. Columbia County has stayed on the state salary schedule, but Columbia County offers more of a local supplement because their property tax values are higher than Richmond County. But they enjoy those high property tax values because their schools are high performing, and that's the same thing that I want for Richmond County. But right now, it's a decent wage that our teachers make. I don't hear a whole lot of people complain about the pay in our school system, and I know a lot of different teachers and administrators. Of course, we all want more, but we know we can go places across the bridge and make less, or go to other places that make less. There's several different school districts that pay less than Richmond County. So the cost of living here, with what teachers make, it's a decent wage. But the strategic waivers, like I said, they were good for 6 or 7 years. Like, they're about to expire. We ask for a lot of flexibility in requirements, from awarding credits to students, attendance. You should go read it. It's on the It's on the accountability website on the Richmond County Board of Education website. But if you go to the state of Georgia, you'll find that over 100 school systems requested strategic waivers, including Columbia County, but they requested flexibility in different areas.
So these are things that are about to run out. I mean, will they be renegotiated?
Probably won't. We're getting a new governor. We're gonna, you may have a new state superintendent of schools. With those changes come new stuff. So it does run out, and you'll be back on the same requirements across the state.
It's interesting.
See, nobody else would know that. You understand? Nobody else would know that. But when you see it, you're gonna say, just saying.
Just had to add, I mean, I think it's great that you were the first person in your family to finish college, it sounds like. And I mean, what was it that really, gave you that extra push to finally, get that done, or was it just
College education?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. Now, I tell you this: my family always valued education, but they value hard work just the same. I did work for 2 years after high school, and I saw in the workforce people who were much older than me, who didn't have a whole lot of choices, and I just didn't want to be that in 20 years. I had friends of mine who went out to college, or who had started college here locally. We were, of course, still friends. That was a window. I had a window into college life and their experiences. So I wanted more for my life, and I wanted more for I wanted to be an inspiration for the generation that was coming up behind me and my family. I just wanted more. I don't know how much more I got, but you know, it's
You find out after November.
it's been a journey, that's for sure.
Do you think you'll definitely stay in Augusta the rest of your days?
It's been 37 years. Most of my friends have moved away, and they laugh at me for remaining. But I just haven't had a reason to leave. But I don't know about my remaining. I hope it's a lot more remaining days. It's a lot more remaining days. Like I said, I have that one kid, and if somehow, when he gets married or I have a family, I might move closer to them. He's in Tennessee, I don't know what'll happen, but I know that family is first, and I'll do what I have to do for family.
It just seems like nowadays there's, a big push to kind of
Get out.
keep people. Well, I mean, it was always that push to get out, but more recently there seems to be a push to try to keep people from leaving.
Well, there's a whole lot of opportunities outside of the area, and I think that people are just looking for opportunities. Our school system Richmond County school system, they have nearly 60 schools. That's a lot of opportunity for people, but then again, it's not, especially, if people are interested in advancing their careers, and if they're not being noticed here, then they go where they are being appreciated, I guess you could say, noticed and appreciated. So, we got to take care of our people and acknowledge their good works, and that will hopefully keep them here longer. You can't control someone's ambition. Maybe their ambition will outgrow, what opportunities you have here for them.
Willie Robinson, candidate for Richmond County School Board District 2. Thanks for joining us today.
Now, I don't know if we really got to talk about my platform, but I answered some questions. Do you want me to share with you my platform and just the areas of focus that I think?
Briefly, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, what my message has been consistent from public forum to public forum. I'm interested in working with our superintendent and our board and our administrators to ensure that we have high school graduates who are prepared for any sector that they decide to go in, whether it be public university or college or military or going directly into work. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that if we define what competencies that we expect our graduates to have. I hope that we can continue and do a better job of attracting and retaining highly qualified teachers and administrators. The talent that we put in front of our students will determine the outcomes of our schools, and if we have to change some things in our school system if we hope to get that best talent. Number one, like I mentioned earlier today, in those tough situations where we expecting tremendous results, we have to do something that's different than we've done before. We're not going to get there with higher class sizes. We're going to get there with smaller class sizes, especially based on the reading levels of our students. And like I said earlier, our community should decide who our school administrators are. That's a way to keep them honest and keep them accountable to the school. I want to ensure that all of our schools are safe from intrusion, and also I want to make sure that they're safe from the people that are on the inside. If you visited any of our schools in Richmond County, they have control access to get in. That's a great start. But our educators have to be concerned about the inside being safe from, and I can say it, our students. We have some students that are very disrespectful sometimes and are very aggressive, and that's not an environment that you would want to work in, or any of our teachers or administrators. Our curriculum, we have so many things available in Richmond County for students, probably too much. It's overwhelming to our educators. And you've probably heard the other candidates talk about getting back to basics. We really need to get back to basics, focusing on reading, writing, and arithmetic. We invest money in curriculum resources that most of our teachers don't even take advantage of because it's an overwhelming cafeteria plan. They can't pick from it. They would rather just not bother with it. But some people think more is better, and that's not always the case. And reduced and efficient spending. We spend so much, and you hear people always talk about the problem is the funding. The state hadn't fully funded education. Money is not going to solve the crisis in education. Good teachers, effective administrators, engaged parents, good curriculum resources. Those things are what's going to solve crisis in education, and we probably get enough through state funding to address that. And that's my platform. I want the same thing that all Richmond County residents want for the Richmond County schools. Simple as that.
Thank you very much.